Imagine an artist drops a massive, like purely commercial, high-energy pop album today.
Sure.
The kind of album that's designed specifically just to pack dance floors and completely dominate the radio.
Right, like a guaranteed summer hit kind of thing.
Exactly. And then on that exact same afternoon, that very same artist, surprise, drops a deeply complex, entirely wordless acoustic classical indie album.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense.
Right. You would probably think they were, I don't know, trying to sabotage their own career. The demographics for those two things are completely different.
You'd alienate everyone. The pop fans would be confused, and the classical purists would be, offended.
Exactly. But in 1999, one singer did exactly that. And instead of ruining his career, he fundamentally rewired the entire landscape of Indian music.
It is honestly one of the boldest moves in modern pop culture history. And I think it perfectly encapsulates why we're looking at him today. We've actually pulled from an incredibly diverse stack of sources for you today.
Yeah, it's a wild mix.
It really is. We have academic psychological reviews that dissect the neurological impact of Bollywood music. Then we have these retrospective articles celebrating the 25th anniversaries of those legendary 90s indie pop albums.
And we also have recent news dispatches from, well, right now in April 2026, covering major concert events at naval bases, which we will definitely get into.
Yes, we absolutely have to.
So our mission for you on this deep dive is to explore the continuously evolving, almost gravity-defying career of Sonu Nigam.
And we aren't just here to talk about his technical vocal range. I mean, obviously that is staggering on its own.
Right, the technique is flawless, but we want to unpack his psychological and cultural impact, how he acts as this emotional conduit for an entire generation.
We are really looking at a journey that spans from his emergence as this definitive 90s pop idol to his enduring massive relevance today.
Because honestly, his discography hasn't just aged like fine wine. It has genuinely become the structural foundation for how millions of people process their own emotions.
To really get to the bottom of how an artist achieves that kind of emotional permanence, you have to look at their most psychologically demanding work. Those tracks that require them to operate at the absolute limits of human expression.
Right. So let's just jump straight to 2012. The movie is Agnipath, and the song is Avi Mujhme Kahin.
Oh man, what a track.
It really is. And according to the academic psychological reviews in our stack, this isn't just, a beautifully sad song. It's actually categorized as a profound, almost overwhelming psychological experience for the listener.
And that experience is very deliberately engineered by the musical construction of the track itself. It was composed by the duo Ajay Tola, and they made this fascinating structural choice right out of the gate.
What did they do?
Well, they didn't write this in a standard pop time signature. They built the song using a 14-beat rhythmic framework known as Deep Chandi.
14 beats. Wait, which is incredibly important to point out because most pop songs are in, what, 44 time?
Yeah, exactly. 44 is standard.
All right, so you can march to them. It's
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. It's very predictable and grounding. But a 14-beat cycle like Deep Chandi doesn't let you march.
No, not at all. It breathes.
Yeah, it creates this lopsided cyclical pulling sensation that physically mimics the feeling of being dragged backward into a memory.
Exactly. It completely unmoors you. And then they rooted this 14-beat rhythm in Raga Paravi, which is a classical Indian framework specifically known for evoking this deep spiritual yearning and melancholy.
But they didn't just stop at classical Indian structures, did they?
No, Ajay Atul engineered an incredibly unique fusion here. You have the sweeping, massive symphonic elements of Western rock orchestration.
Which are huge.
Right, they're huge. And they're colliding directly with the intimate, poetic phrasing of a Hindustani ghazal, all while carrying the spiritual, almost desperate yearning of a Sufi qawwali.
Okay, but let me push back on that for a second, or at least challenge the mechanism here. Is that fusion of Western rock and Hindustani ghazal actually causing a psychological overload for the listener? Or are we just reacting to Amitabh Bhattacharya's devastatingly beautiful lyrics?
That's a fair question.
Because it feels like the lyrics might just be doing all the heavy lifting,
It is so tempting to give the lyrics all the credit, I agree, but the neurological data in these academic reviews actually tells a different story.
Really? How so?
Well, when you listen to music, your brain's pleasure and reward centers light up, right? And it prompts the release of oxytocin.
which is the hormone involved in human bonding, right?
Exactly, bonding and emotional regulation. So the music itself, that grand, swelling Western orchestration clashing with the quiet, isolated, soulful ghazal vocal, it primes the listener's brain for a massive emotional response.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it physically opens up your neuroreceptors. The architecture of the music actually makes you vulnerable, and then once you're vulnerable, the lyrics hit you.
And when the lyrics hit, they take you straight into this clinical concept the sources call emotional blocking.
Precisely. In psychology, emotional blocking refers to a complete cognitive inhibition of thought.
Like your brain just stops working.
Essentially, yes. It happens when a person is subjected to extreme, fundamentally conflicting emotions at the exact same time. Think about the context of the film Agnipath.
Right.
The protagonist has spent his entire life consumed by this dark, singular, violent mission of revenge. It's just a closed loop of trauma.
Right. He's just hardened.
Completely. But suddenly, he is reunited with his sister. He's hit with this wave of pure, unadulterated hope and innocent love. But it is violently clashing against years of deep, unresolved grief.
He literally sings, should I die or live a little? Should I kiss the happiness or cry a little?
Right. His brain cannot process the duality of the emotion. The cognitive load is simply too high.
It's like a computer freezing.
Yes.
Like if you try to open a massive video editing software, a heavy video game, and 100 internet browser tabs all at the exact same millisecond.
The processor just stalls.
Exactly, it just stalls out. And the human brain does the exact same thing when it's hit with overwhelming hope and bottomless grief simultaneously. You just lock up.
That is the perfect mechanism to describe what is happening there. And this is where Sonu Nigam's vocal delivery elevates the song into a masterclass.
Because he's not just hitting notes.
No, he doesn't just hit the notes. His vocal inflections capture that cognitive freeze. The academic reviews actually highlight a specific metaphoric symbolism in the lyrics where life is compared to a kite without a string.
Just floating aimlessly, completely disconnected from the earth.
Exactly. It represents a blurry, uncertain future, but then the character feels this new bond, this sudden anchor of hope pulling him down to reality. And Sonu's voice in that exact moment alters its texture.
You can actually hear the breath catch.
Yes. He acts out the psychological transition from being entirely unmoored to suddenly feeling the terrifying grounding weight of having something to lose again.
Wow, it's just heavy.
Yeah.
It is so heavy. And it takes an incredible amount of vocal control to simulate a psychological breakdown like that.
It really does.
But if Agnipath is him vocalizing cognitive overload and grief, how does that exact same voice turn around and convince the human brain that it is experiencing the weightless, dizzying rush of new love?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because to truly understand his architecture, we really have to look at his defining era alongside Shah Rukh Khan. I mean, he proved his unparalleled ability to navigate the absolute entire spectrum of romance.
You really cannot analyze the concept of romance in modern Indian pop culture without looking closely at the SRK era. And Sonu Nigam was the definitive, undisputed voice of that era.
For sure.
Let's look at the title track of Kal Ho Na Ho, composed by Shankar Ihsaan Loy, with lyrics by Javed Akhtar.
A track that is still practically mandatory for any emotional montage. Even now, like you hear those first few notes and you're instantly in your feelings.
Because it acts as a universal, soul-stirring anchor. The track is fundamentally a poignant message about living in the present moment. It's about the nature of selfless love and the terrifying inevitability of loss.
Yeah.
When Sonu sings that track, it triggers profound emotional nostalgia. His tone is celebratory, right? But it's wrapped in the quiet grief of knowing that the celebration is temporary.
It's so beautiful. But then you look at a track like A.R. Rahman's Satya, and the contrast is genuinely giving me whiplash.
Oh, completely different energy.
Completely. Satya is just bouncing with this playful, deeply romantic, almost flirtatious vibe. The sources mention the brilliant guitar work and the superior flute orchestration framing Gulzar's lyrics. But what's wild to me about Satya is that it was originally a South Indian track sung by the legendary Hariharan.
That is a crucial detail to include. Hariharan's version is a masterpiece in its own right.
It totally is. But when Sonu recorded the Hindi version, he didn't just try to mimic it, he adapted it. He added this extra bit, this incredibly soothing, breezy vocal quality that just completely melts through the speakers.
Yeah, he made it his own.
And it was so entirely different from the wider, high-energy Bollywood landscape of that specific time.
Context is everything here, because the early 2000s Bollywood soundscape was dominated by massive, kinetic, aggressive energy.
Like what?
Think about Sukhwinder Singh's raw, full-throated delivery on Chaya Chaya from Dil Se.
Oh, the train song.
Literally dancing on top of a moving train. It was powerful, it was percussion-heavy, it was pure adrenaline.
Exactly. And right in the middle of all that raw, moving train adrenaline, Sonu comes in with Satya, and it acts like a gentle, cooling breeze. It's like he lowered the blood pressure of the entire culture.
That's a great way to put it.
But he was actually on that high adrenaline Dil Se soundtrack too, wasn't he? Singing Satranji Ray. And that track feels like the ultimate proof of his versatility.
The Sanji Ray is a phenomenal case study. That song masterfully traces the 7 Arabic stages of love, and the vocal delivery has to physically manifest each stage.
Which is an incredibly tall order for a 3-minute pop song. I mean, let's walk through those stages. First is Dilkashi, which is initial attraction.
Right.
Then it moves into Uns, which is infatuation. Then Ishq, which is love.
Right.
Followed by Aqidat, reverence or trust.
And then it deepens into Ibadat, worship.
Yeah. And then the final 2 stages are where it gets really dark. Junoon, which is madness. And finally Maut, death or complete destruction of the self.
Just think about the mechanics required to pull that off. So Nu's voice has to carry the listener through that entire psychological descent.
Yeah, it's not a static performance.
Not at all. He starts with a lighter, almost curious inflection for Dilkashi. And by the time he reaches Junoon and Maut, the vocal delivery is desperate, strained, and entirely consumed. He physically alters his vocal cords to demonstrate a descent into madness.
Which really makes you step back and look at the whole genre differently. We so often write off romantic Bollywood tracks as just catchy fluff, like music to play in the background at weddings.
Right, just pop tunes.
But looking at the philosophical weight of Kalho Naho, or the terrifying psychological mapping of the 7 stages of love in Satrangi Ray, are these actually complex treatises on human existence masquerading as pop songs?
Without a doubt. They are packaged as highly accessible commercial pop music, but they are dealing with the absolute most fundamental human anxieties.
Yeah.
They tackle mortality, the desperate biological need for connection, the paralyzing fear of loss, and that dangerous surrender of losing your own identity within another person.
Heavy stuff.
The reason these songs have endured for decades isn't just because the Ajay Atul or A.R. Rahman melodies are catchy. It's because they are emotionally and neurologically true. They map the human experience accurately.
But that map wasn't just drawn in the isolated recording booths for big-budget films. This incredible chameleon-like versatility, the ability to sing a breezy romance and a psychological breakdown with equal authenticity, it didn't just appear out of nowhere.
No, it definitely didn't.
It was forged in the trenches of the indie pop scene of the late 90s. That is where he completely transformed his identity.
This is a vital piece of the puzzle that the retrospective articles in our stack really illuminate. We are looking at the 25th anniversary of his 1999 cult albums, Dewana and Mausam.
25 years. It's wild to think about the cultural shift those albums caused.
It was a monumental pivot. Before 1999, he was largely perceived by the public as the sweet, stationary, boy-next-door playback singer.
Right.
He stood behind a microphone, delivered beautiful vocals for actors, and went home. But these 2 albums completely shattered that image. He evolved into a highly visible, singing, dancing pop star in his own right.
The sources highlight specific tracks that just completely dominated the culture. From the Dewana album, you had the incredibly upbeat, infectious Dewana Tera alongside the intensely soulful Mujhe Ratin. Massive. But then you look at the Mausam album, and there's this track called Yesterday Was Tomorrow. And this goes back to the hook we started with at the beginning of the deep dive.
The sheer audacity of Yesterday was, Tomorrow is staggering. It was composed by Ravi Pawar, and it has absolutely no words. It is entirely Sargam.
For those who might not know, Sargam is the practice of singing the notes of a musical scale, sa, re, ga, ma, as a form of classical vocal improvisation. It's highly technical.
Exactly. It's essentially a vocal gymnasium. He is singing complex, rapid-fire improvisations across different demanding ragas.
So just to fully comprehend the strategy here, he drops Dewana, which is a massive, commercially viable, highly romantic pop album designed to sell millions of cassettes.
Right.
And at the exact same time, he drops Mausam, featuring deep classical experimentation with a track that is literally just scales and 0 words. It's exactly like a modern artist dropping a massive stadium tour club album and a highly niche experimental acoustic indie album on the exact same day.
Which is insane.
Why did that strategy work instead of just confusing everyone?
Usually an artist pulling a stunt like that risks alienating their core demographic. You confuse the pop fans with the classical, and you offend the classical purists with the pop.
Yeah, you lose everyone.
But Sonu Nigam pulled it off because his voice acted like a universal skeleton key. His core demographic wasn't tied to a specific genre. His demographic was simply anyone who appreciated emotional resonance.
The skeleton key metaphor makes perfect sense. Singing all that complex sargam on yesterday was... Tomorrow was physically training his vocal cords to handle the immense acrobatic versatility required for the future eras of Bollywood.
It stretched his instrument.
So that when a composer handed him a 14-beat cycle, or a track tracing the 7 stages of love 10 years later, his voice was already conditioned to unlock it.
And we cannot talk about his pop star era without talking about the visual aspect of that transition, specifically the Bijuria phenomenon.
Yes, the music video for Bijuria from the Malsam album is legendary. And it was largely due to his collaboration with the absolute icon of choreography, Saroj Khan. The retrospective sources note that Khan told him, Chali Kamarkas Lijiye.
Come on, tighten your belt and get ready to work.
Exactly. She didn't let him just stand there and look pretty. She made him learn these intense, highly expressive, Govinda-style dance steps. He was proving his dedication to becoming a complete 360-degree entertainer.
He really put the work in.
He did. And learning to dance like that, learning to control his breath and project his charisma while moving dynamically, completely changed his stage presence.
Which brings us directly to the third part of our source stack, the present day. Today is Friday, April 24th, 2026, and the news pieces explicitly point out that absolutely no modern concert of his is considered complete without those 1999 hits.
They are absolute concert essentials. People who weren't even born in 1999 are demanding to hear Bijuria live.
And his live performance relevance in 2026 is frankly staggering. Just a few months ago, on January 14th, 2026, he performed a massive live show in a highly unusual venue.
Where was it?
Aboard the INS Kadamba Navy base.
A massive concert on an active naval base. I mean, that is a flex.
It really is. It was a highly orchestrated event for the soundtrack launch of the anticipated film Border 2. He performed a brand new track called Midi Kavet, but he also anchored the recreation of the anthem Gar Kab Ayoj, which is a modern remix of the legendary track Sandees Atai from the original 1997 Border film.
See, that is incredible to me. The original Sandees Atai Hai was a massive cultural touchstone. It captured the profound isolation and yearning of soldiers at the border.
Yes, it was iconic.
And he sang that nearly 30 years ago. And here he is in 2026, launching the sequel's music on a naval base, using his exact same voice to tie the emotional core of both films together across 3 decades.
It's a fascinating study in emotional continuity. The sources actually note that there were critiques from Javed Akhtar, the original lyricist, and others regarding the modern trend of recreating old classic works.
Which is a huge debate right now.
Right. But Sonu defended the emotional continuity of the project. He noted that Sandees Ate Hai is essentially the uniform of the film's soul. His voice is the thread connecting the past to the present.
Wow.
And the most remarkable part is that amidst all this grand patriotic legacy cinema music, he hasn't stopped exploring intimacy. He is still releasing brand new romantic music in 2026, like the recent track Na Ja Re with Salim Sulaiman.
It just proves that the emotional conduit never closes. He can still tap into that exact same frequency he found in 1999 with Dewana, or in 2003 with Kalho Naho, or in 2012 with Agnipath. So taking all of this in, what does this actually mean for you, the listener, the next time you put on a pair of headphones? We have gone from dissecting the breathing 14-beat psychological depth of his ballads to charting the terrifying descent through the 7 stages of love, to celebrating his transformation into a dancing 90s pop idol who is literally still commanding naval base concerts in 2026.
I think it shows a career that hasn't just survived the shifting tides of the music industry. It has actively adapted, deepened, and grown more resilient.
We started this deep dive by saying his discography has aged like fine wine, and looking closely at these sources proves that isn't just a cliche. The songs hold up because the architectural foundation underneath them, the psychological awareness, the classical training, the pure, unfiltered empathy is rock solid.
If I can leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Go for it.
We discussed earlier how Neurologically speaking, music can trigger oxytocin and act as a profound psychological anchor in the brain, right?
Right.
Binding an emotion to a specific sound forever. If a single singer's voice has been the designated soundtrack to an entire generation's innocent first loves, like in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, and also the backdrop to their deepest, most isolated griefs, like in Tanhai, over the span of 3 decades,
Yeah.
are playback singers actually the true hidden architects of our emotional autobiographies?
Wow. That really recontextualizes how you look at the playlists on your phone. They aren't just songs, they're the load-bearing walls of your memories. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We highly encourage you to go find the wordless classical mastery of Yesterday Was Tomorrow, or put on the devastating beauty of Abi Mujmain Kahin with fresh ears today. Listen past the melody, listen for the architecture. We will catch you next time.